Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your relationship without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today you're going to get to eavesdrop on a master relationship coach at work. Instead of an interview, my guest Karen gave us permission to share a recording of a live group coaching call where she brought the challenge of feeling unloved to Master Coach Kathy, who is one of the best relationship coaches in the world. If you've never been in any of our programs, this is your opportunity to hear firsthand what it's like to be coached. And then I'll be giving out the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award, which is from a crowdsourced article where lots of people weighed in with what they thought would be helpful. Spoiler alert, it's not very helpful. All that's coming up, but first, let's set the stage for the group coaching you're about to hear. I'm excited to share this with you because group coaching is foundational in all of our programs at Laura Doyle Connect, even private coaching, because it was the magic of a group in my living room 20 years ago that helped me make the leap from someone who had a bunch of bad habits that were draining the intimacy out of my marriage to someone who was practicing new habits that made me feel dignified and confident and loved. And being a part of a group of women who are all committed to making their marriages last and sharing authentically and standing for each other's marriages is the most powerful way I know to quickly get the transformation that I experienced and that now tens of thousands of students have also experienced. That's why group coaching is a critical part of all the programs on our campus. It's in the Ridiculously Happy Wife, the Diamond Private Coaching Program, and Relationship Coach Training. You're going to hear a recording from a real live group coaching call, and there were many women on the call, and the call started in the usual way that group coaching calls start on our campus, which is with the participants getting related through briefly checking in on the intimacy skill that's most present for her. And those are private check-ins that are shared in a sacred space. And we are very protective about those. So instead of sharing those check-ins here on a public podcast, this recording starts after check-ins and goes straight to the coaching. So just imagine that context where women are sharing very vulnerably about their relationships, and you get a sense of the enormous emotional safety in this group. And then the coaching happens. And after the coaching session, the other participants either acknowledge and celebrate the woman who got coached, maybe for her courage or for her accountability or her determination or something else. Or they might share their own takeaways and insights that they got from listening. It's vulnerable to get coaching and it can be scary. So it's important to feel safe and accepted by the group, especially after you've shared something tender or deeply personal. So that's a critical part of the structure of the group coaching calls also, but not part of the recording I'm sharing with you today because, as you know, we take privacy and anonymity very seriously. So you'll be hearing just the interaction between Karen and Coach Kathy with Karen's express blessing to share this here on the podcast and Coach Kathy's too. There's no way to adequately describe the comfort and the nurturing and the strengthening that you get from being in a group coaching call on our campus, even if all you do is listen. It's something you just have to experience for yourself. The coaching calls are also riveting, which is why many of our students attend several a week. I wanted to give you a taste of at least the coaching part because if you're anything like I was, you're more familiar with counseling, which is entirely different. Coaching is so much more effective for creating your most wanted outcome because it includes someone who has what you want, sharing with you exactly what she did to get it. So, without further ado, let's eavesdrop with permission on one of the many powerful coaching calls from our campus. If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest.
Awesome, Karen. Love to hear. What skill are you winning at? And what skill are you working on? Love your background too.
Thank you. Thank you for doing these calls. I'm working a lot on self-care and gratitude. And like I started a daily journal where I write down at least 3 or 5 things that I'm grateful for, which helps me get out of net with my husband. But what I'm working on is relinquishing control to rebuild that respect. I think I listened to one of the podcasts and someone wrote down the 10 things that women do to control. And I've been trying to like check myself every day and then clean up my side of the street when I catch myself because I'm still doing some things. But he did ask me this weekend, we went for a long walk. And he's like, I really appreciate everything that you're doing. But I just don't understand how we rebuild trust. So I feel like if I just keep doing the skills, it will help, but looking for other suggestions.
Karen, I really hear that you're working on and winning with self-care, it sounds like, and that you, in gratitude, you're journaling, it sounds like, yeah, and you've come up with 3 to 5 things a day to share. Is that right?
Yes.
Beautiful. Congratulations on that. And I also hear that you're working on relinquishing control to restore respect and that there's still a big question mark for you about how to best do that. Is that right?
And therefore, he's asking, how do we rebuild trust based on me being so controlling in the past? And he definitely, like, I don't do the car, tell him how to drive the car anymore, or a lot of things like that. But I think there's still, still catch myself.
I hear you. I love your awareness and your accountability, Karen. I still catch myself too, just so you know. I've been at this a long time and I still try to be controlling. It's really funny. It's just my nature. It's just my tendency whenever I get afraid. And so I would love to provide some coaching for you today if you're open to it, Karen.
Oh boy.
Would you like to be the client today? It's totally up to you.
Yeah. Yes, I'll do it.
Oh, thank you so much for the honor of standing for you and supporting you. You're welcome. So tell me a little bit about this scene at your house. Tell me a little bit about this lack of trust.
I think there was just a big wake-up call. We've been married for 30 years. We just celebrated 30. But about 7 years ago, he, said, I'm not in love with you anymore. It was just everything out of the book, And I just started doing coaching a couple months ago. I wish I would have done it sooner. We did counseling, which is one of the things. It's exactly like how you described. It was all about all the things he was doing wrong and making him feel awful. So that didn't work. But so he hasn't told me that he loves me, and there's not a lot of affection, but he's here and he's committed, and it's improving. It really is. I'm so grateful for that. But it's easy for me sometimes to get into net about not getting what I need, and I'm trying to focus on his way of showing love and affection. But I mean, I made some bad decisions in the past, like moving us across the country for my job, without really talking to him. And so those kind of things just kind of built up, and I've apologized, and I've also done the one and done, like no more. And he's aware of that because I've probably apologized 50 times for those things. And I've done a lot of personal work on maybe why I was showing up the way I was based on some childhood issues, sexual abuse. And so I feel like I've grown a lot, but he's just, I don't know how I get farther with him on rebuilding the trust.
Oh, Karen, I hear how painful this is for you. I can just hear it in your voice. And
Hmm.
I just want you to know I was right in a similar place. And I just really hear how committed you are too, which for me is just such a beautiful, beautiful platform to be doing this work on. When you're committed, there's just no doubt in my mind you can turn this around and restore respect and have peace and intimacy in your home and in your
Hmm.
marriage. And I just want to say, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here and you
Thank
have
you.
these skills. You're so welcome. And I just really hear that. First of all, too, congratulations on 30 years of marriage. That's a
Okay.
big deal. I know what it takes. I'm
Hmm.
married 28 years myself, and 20 of them I've been surrendering. So, congratulations on 30 years. You have a lot at stake. You
Hmm.
have a lot at stake. And I really hear that about 7 years ago, your husband came to you and said he wasn't in love with you anymore. And that you really wished you would have found this work or started working with a coach sooner. And now that you're here, you see a lot and you've taken
Yeah.
responsibility and apologized. You did the big one and done. Now you're making these skills your habit, and here you are getting coaching. So the question on the table is, what is it going to take to trust again?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
boy, I really felt the same way. I too wanted to know what I needed to do to fix it. And for me, I'd spent over a decade being disrespectful, and it wasn't going to get fixed overnight. I knew that, even though I wanted it fixed overnight, I'd really hurt my husband and emasculated him and
Hmm.
did similar things. I hear you moved the family across the country without really consulting him. And
Hmm.
I can relate to a similar kind of insistence that cost me greatly the connection with my husband and the trust. And so one of the things that I did was I just turned in my early journey my focus entirely onto my paper and learning about self care for the first time. So I was
Yes.
depleted. I didn't know anything about it, and I hadn't done any of it. And so I'm curious, Karen, how your self care is. You've been at this a couple months. I'm sure you've made it your habit, but how would you rate your self care?
I would say it's probably a 7 or 8, but it wasn't. It was exactly how you described. I mean, I just didn't make the time for me, didn't make the time for girlfriends, didn't make the
Mm-hmm.
time to, go for a walk or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have 2 daughters who are older now, but I just, full-time job and trying to do everything. And so I've been pretty good about it. I mean, it's a little bit limiting still here, but,
Yeah.
I try my best, get
Mm-hmm.
out and get coffee with a girlfriend and
Good.
um, do things for
Good. I know.
me.
Oh, good for you, Karen, for practicing the skill of self care. It feels so counterintuitive that this is the pathway to having your husband trust again and experiencing this peace and intimacy in your home that I just can't even believe how safe it is here in my home as a result of me getting ridiculously happy.
Hmm.
It just felt like, wow, seems so strange because at first I thought if I got happy, I was going to give him the wrong message, like
Yeah.
his treating me with a cold shoulder and not being physically attracted to me or not wanting to be with me was going to give him the wrong message. It was almost like my pouting and my sulking and my unhappiness was how I was showing him how much he hurt me. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I just
Yeah,
want
and I can be like so needy, and I know the last thing you're supposed to ask
mm,
for is affection, but
mm,
so that's when I try to really focus on the self care and the gratitude.
yeah, I just really hear how painful it is to hear and say that he's not in love with you and what's it going to take to trust again. That's
Mm-hmm.
hard, Karen. That's really, really hard. All right. Well, so you've got your self care at a 7 or an 8.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had a magic wand, how would you like things to be at your house? How would you like this feeling of trust to be playing out?
I don't know, it just feels like it's kind of on edge all the time. Uh,
Mm.
he's definitely been a lot more playful lately, and it's improving, like I said.
Mm.
So I think, like you said too, it's just going to take time, and me practicing the skills more. But just want it to be playful and affectionate, and like, I mean, nothing's ever going to be perfect because we all screw up. But
I hear, yeah. I really hear that if you had a magic wand and you could predict or have this light and less tension filled home and environment, that it would be more fun. It would be based on you practicing the skills. It would be playful, and it wouldn't be perfect for sure. But I'm hearing an ease. Sounds like
yeah.
emotional safety on both parts, where you could be yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that vision. Love that commitment. And self care has certainly been the foundation for me. And I'll tell you, one of the other things that really, really made a difference for me was my gratitude. And I'll tell you a little story about when Laura invited me to practice the skill of gratitude early in my journey, because it was sorely missing in all of the disrespect and control that I had. I was just quite bossy and insistent and very unacknowledging of my husband having anything good to contribute or say. I was the breadwinner. I managed everything, the finances, the household, the kids, the homework. Uh, and as I said, I was resentful and angry about it. But I really wasn't ever focusing on the contributions that my husband was making. And it was Laura who helped me turn my focus from all that he wasn't doing and all that I was unhappy about to everything that he was doing. She invited me to really make a list of all the things I was grateful for and to start expressing those to him. And I'll have to be honest, the first thing I said to her was, my voice is getting nervous to share this with you because I'm so embarrassed. Because I have such an amazing husband. But I didn't notice any of it. This is what I said to her. You've got to be kidding me. I am not going to stroke his ego. That is what I said. And so I resisted being grateful. I wanted to remain bitter and angry because it was familiar. It's where I lived because of my background, because of my childhood. I was an angry, bitter woman. I wasn't pleasable at all. And so this was a huge thing to take on the skill of gratitude. And you know what happened, Karen, in the process? My heart changed. Gratitude is the double duty skill where not only does it change their perspective of you, appreciating them versus resenting them, but my heart, your heart can change too. And when my heart started to change because I started to believe those things and see those things and recognize those things, I became softer and more playful and fun and easy to be around. And the emotional safety really opened up for me in my home for him. So I'm wondering how it would fit for you to take on the skill of gratitude so that you could experience this double duty benefit.
Yeah, I really like that, because I do definitely feel the resentment sometimes. And I think shifting that, I see the real value.
Yes. Oh, I'm so pleased. I love it. Thank you for being courageous and being willing. I wasn't so willing in the beginning. And so I appreciate you letting me share my story with you.
Yeah.
Spare yourself some delay in getting the results, because it took me a little while to actually reap the benefits, because I was so tight-lipped and I was so like, ooh, you gotta be kidding me. I'm going to say something nice. And it was so not like me. And that's why this work for me is the biggest self-improvement program I've ever done, to really get vulnerable and get real. And I did it all with women like you. I didn't know that connecting with other women was going to be the path to transforming my marriage. So I just love that you're willing to take it on. So can we create a few gratitudes right now that you'd be willing to start saying out loud so you could start feeling the change in your heart and he could start seeing the new Karen?
Sure. And then I'm grateful for his integrity and commitment. He's here and there's not someone else.
Yes.
And he's playful and smart. He helps a lot around the house, and he's been an awesome dad.
Wow, Karen, those are some beautiful gratitudes. And he has integrity. He's committed. He's home. He's with you. He's playful. He's smart. He helps. He's a great dad. Let's dig up a couple more. And I'd love for you to look at perhaps something you could be grateful for that perhaps before you hadn't recognized. You willing to look there?
He's smart. He really is. I think when we were speaking with someone earlier, like asking for help, I would typically do it myself, and he's actually very smart, and I think I lost sight of that, and it's part of why I fell in love with him in the first place.
That's beautiful. I really hear you want to express your awareness of how smart he is and how much you admire that. Wow, beautiful. And I hear that in the past too, you did a lot, carried a lot of the load where now he's so smart, he's so capable, he's so committed, he has integrity. Of course he's going to help if he says he's going to help. Love that. Ooh, fabulous. How's this feeling to you to start practicing gratitude this week and expressing it both to him and to yourself?
I think it's going to be hard to say it, but I guess
You're
do
willing.
it.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love your commitment, Karen. You got this. I promise you. My whole heart just softened. My face softened. I became much more relaxed, easy to be with, and I just I'm so grateful for the skills, for Laura Doyle for inviting me to do a scary thing that didn't feel at all like I wanted to do it. And I just see so much hope for you turning this completely around for yourself. I can't wait to hear.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What are you taking away from our conversation today? What have you seen for yourself?
I think there's a real opportunity to focus on the gratitude and expressing it to make it a lot easier and lighter.
Yeah.
Which is what I want in a relationship.
Yes, you want to lighten things up at your house. Yeah, and sounds like you really want to bring gratitude, a space of gratitude. I can just see the peace coming over your home as a result of that. Karen, beautiful.
If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest. And now it's time for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award.
It's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice of the week.
And the advice I find most agonizing this week is from a crowdsourced relationship advice article. So one guy got a whole bunch of people to contribute their thoughts and opinions and then synthesized it into a long advice column. And one sentence that jumped out and offended me mightily, which happens to me a lot with relationship advice, as you probably know, was this sentence: go to counseling now, before you need it so that you're both open to working on the relationship together. So they lost me at, quote, go to counseling. Because I went to counseling and it didn't help make my marriage last. And to paraphrase Mike Judge from the show King of the Hill, it put undue stress on a structure that wasn't up to code to begin with, my marriage. And it's not just me. Lots of students tell me the same thing, that they went to counseling and it didn't help, or it made things worse. They went to counseling and came out fighting, or they came home feeling hopeless, or worse, powerless. I firmly believe that the vast majority of marriage counselors mean well, and they want to be of service in saving marriages. And the idea that you should go to counseling is the default solution that I thought of and that most people think of when their marriage is in trouble. There was something so seductive about having someone listen and empathize with all my complaints about my husband. I loved the validation of hearing that I was right and he was wrong. I was like, thank you. So I was attracted to that part at first. But just like being near a Dementor in a Harry Potter book, counseling sucked out my hope. All that focus on what was wrong with him and what was wrong with our marriage made it grow until it seemed insurmountable. I was at counseling when I realized I was going to have to get divorced because he was never going to change, which I later reversed after I realized that I was too embarrassed to get divorced. Thank goodness, because he really is the man of my dreams. So that would have been tragic. And granted, we didn't go to counseling before we needed it. We went when we were already in trouble, and that certainly didn't help. But I can't see how focusing on everything that was going wrong preemptively would have helped either. What you focus on increases, and that's more obvious to me now that I know how to consciously choose my focus on how my husband is always looking for ways to make me happy. It's not that you have to buck up and handle your marriage challenges alone. I'm all for getting support for your marriage from someone who has what you want and can share authentically about how she got it and what she does to create a lasting marriage personally. But in many cases, marriage counselors aren't even allowed to share about their personal lives. And for that reason, the advice to go to counseling now before you need it so that you're both open to working on the relationship together is the very worst relationship advice I've heard all week. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll answer the question, what is a ridiculously happy wife and how can you become one? In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that John and I are temporarily staying in a home that's surrounded by lots of big trees. And now I'm friends with like 17 of them.